Torchy's Tacos is a phenomenon in the South, especially in Texas. If you haven't been there, they're known for what I would say 3 things. One is a trailer park taco, which is a fried chicken tender taco. It's really good. Queso is delicious, honestly pretty top tier. And the third thing is a spicy salsa that's super creamy, really, really hot, called Diablo Sauce. That is what we're talking about today, and that's what I'm gonna show you how to make. It pretty much goes well on everything and takes about 10 minutes to make. I realized while making my torta video a couple weeks ago that the salsa I was making for that tasted exactly like Diablo sauce, especially when I had it with eggs the next day. So here's how to make it. To start, you're gonna take a pound of tomatoes and wash them. This is just one of those containers of tomatoes you get at the grocery store, but they happen to be tomatoes that taste pretty nice. If you're in a season that it's hard to find fresh tomatoes, go with something like cherry or grape tomatoes. Those are usually pretty good tasting no matter what the season is. Don't get like really large Roma tomatoes that are just gonna be watery and tasteless for this. I like to cut them down into a dice just so that they cook faster. For the rest of prep, you just need a couple of cloves of smashed garlic and a bunch of arbol chilies with the seeds removed. If you know anything about chilies, you'll be able to guess just by the size of these that these are gonna be spicy. To nail your desired heat level, you're gonna go with anywhere from 5 to 8 arbol chilies. If you want it like really, really spicy, go in that like 7 to 8 range. If you want it just a little bit hot, go with 5. It's called Diablo Salsa for a reason though, so it needs to be at least a little hot. You don't wanna make this and have it taste just like a blended tomato sauce. That's not the point of making this. To make the salsa, begin heating a skillet over medium heat with a shimmering layer of oil. Drop in your garlic cloves, and once they begin sizzling and browning, place in your chilies. These are gonna sit in the oil for about 10 to 15 seconds, basically just enough time to cook them and change the oil into something a little bit spicier. Remove those from the pan and then drop your tomatoes into the oil, but be careful of any oil splatters here. The danger here is getting any oil in your eye, and then you're gonna be stuck with a lot of pain. Season this with a heavy pinch of salt and let the tomatoes just cook away on medium-low for about 10 minutes. The water is gonna release, and these are just gonna simmer in their own juices until they're like slightly thickened. All of them are gonna be kind of broken down and cooked, and you're gonna have a really, really delicious tomato sauce to blend with your chilies. When Megan Kay and I lived in Dallas, we lived like 1 block away from a Torchy's, which was pretty dangerous. It's not the healthiest thing to be eating pretty much once a week, especially when you're getting the queso every time. I know it's a chain, but honestly, we loved it. It's like people who love chilies. Like there's something about it that feels nostalgic and feels right. Okay, so now the tomatoes are cooked and we can add them to our blender along with the arbols. If you've got a sealed blender like I do, you may have to let them cool for a little while. That way you don't like accidentally create a blender bomb. Add in a splash of white vinegar and then any salt that you need if you didn't add enough salt while you're cooking the tomatoes. It's really easy to adjust the seasoning on this though to your taste. Let it rip until it's completely smooth and then add this back into the pan.
Don't breathe this.
I like to do that, especially because my blender gets a lot stuck to the walls of it, and so I have to add a little bit of water, shake the blender, and then pour it back in as well. If I were to do that and not cook it down again, I would be left with a little bit runnier of a salsa than I prefer. Get your pan back over like a medium-low, and then just let it cook until it's reduced to your preferred texture. If you want like a really, really thick dip type salsa, you could go that far. If you want something that's able to be like poured out over things like eggs and tacos, create something that's a little bit runnier. Texture's totally up to you. This is gonna be the time you wanna taste it for seasoning, just to make sure that the salt levels are right. You could pour this into a bowl and eat it with chips. It's really, really nice that way. It's nice and hot, it's spicy. It's gonna be really, really creamy and delicious. It's probably a little bit hotter than the salsas you're used to making if you've made salsas before. That's a good thing in my opinion. What I like to do though, is put this in a squeeze bottle and store it in the fridge, and that way I've got arbol salsa for whenever I need it on tacos or eggs or anything like a fried chicken or something. I love having this stuff around. Basically, since I made that torta video, I have kept this in the fridge all the time. We make a lot of just like thrown together Mexican food in our house, and so it's really, really nice having a delicious homemade salsa that goes a long way for amping your dishes up. If you enjoy this type of cooking video, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks to the amazing people supporting me directly on Patreon through patreon.com/CameronMarty. They get some cool benefits for supporting the channel, and I get to keep making videos like this. It's a win-win. Now, if you're thinking, whoa, this guy mentioned a torta video, go ahead and check out this one right here. It is a Milanesa torta, and it hits so hard. Still one of my favorite things I've ever made. Thanks for watching. Cheers.